Hello everyone, thank you for stopping by the Book of Joe P. Today I'm going to explain how I make my ciabatta bread, but first we have to start off making a BIGA, which is like a starter that has to sit overnight for 8 to 24 hours, and I'm going to explain how you make that right now. You're going to need a scale, a container, water around 86 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius. You're going to need instant yeast and all-purpose flour. Okay, we have a scale here. I'm going to turn it on. Set the scale to grams if it's not already. This is the container. We're going to let the BIGA rise in overnight, so we'll put that on the scale. We will zero that out, and then we will need to add first 175 grams of warm water around 86 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius, which I have here, and we are around 86 degrees. There we go. And we need 175 grams of warm water. That's 79 grams. That's 144. It's 177. You always take a little bit out. $175 grams of warm water at 86 degrees Fahrenheit, 30 degrees Celsius. Next, we're going to add our instant yeast. It's just 1 tablespoon. 1/4 tablespoon of instant yeast. Pour that in. And what I usually do then is just shake a little bit to incorporate the yeast in the warm water. And it gets looks a little brown, a little tan. Alright, after I got that in, I zero the scale out again. We have to add 225 grams of all-purpose flour. So let's zero it out, and we start adding the flour. We are at 148. Whoop, not too much. We need 225. Alright. After we have that in, I'll shut the scale off, which you can see here now. And all you do is incorporate everything together. Start mixing it. Make sure there's no dry flour hidden in the center. Scrape around the edges. I like to use this plastic or rubber spatula to help scrape the edges. It cuts through the dough, and just keep working it until everything is incorporated. It's going to be a real sticky dough at the moment. It's really well. Scrape the sides. As you're doing it, make sure you don't see any dry flour left. And when you have all that, I usually just go around the edges. Make sure I have everything. And everything should look like that. And then I'll leave that, put a lid on it. And in 8 to 24 hours, I will show you what it will look like. This one here has been sitting for about 18 hours. And this is what it should look like. You can see it's rows in here. And it should look full of life, holes, a little shiny on top, and it smells beautiful. All right, that's the BIGA, the starter. Okay, it's now the next step after your BIGA has been made. You're going to need a dough mixer with a dough hook, or a mixer with a dough hook. So what the dough hook looks like. You're going to need warm water, 86 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius, your all-purpose flour, and your scale. This is the bowl from the mixer. First, you're going to turn on your scale, bowl for your mixer on top, zero it out. You're going to need 180 grams of the warm water. I use this water for all the dough for now and later in the process. So it's nice to have a nice big container full, ready to go. If it gets a little chilly, I just warm it up. Just a little too much. Alright, 180 grams of warm water. And now we're going to need 250 grams of flour, which I am going to re-zero out the scale, make my flour, and I need 250 grams of it. Okay, just little by little. A bit more. $250 grams of all-purpose flour. Put this out of the way. And then you can shut off your scale. Take it, put it in your mixer. Oops, backwards. Plug it in, your dough hook, and just put it on low. This recipe that I'm making is not mine. I found this also on the internet, and I liked it so much, and my friends liked it so much. They say, why don't you next time making bread, to videotape it and show us how you did it, so we can try it at home instead of calling you all the time. So this is what I'm doing. So hopefully all of you out there watching will try this, and I hope you have great success with it also, and you love it as much as my family and my friends do. I shut it off. I'm going to scrape down the sides, make sure everything incorporates. It's back on. After this mixes really well, and you don't see any more dry flour or water in it, we're going to cover this and let it sit for 30 minutes, and then I'll show you what the next process is. Okay, we're back after 30 minutes. Take the towel off the top of the dough, and we are going to mix some more things in here. That's what the dough looks like. Turn on my scale, put that on top. I'm going to zero it out, and I'm going to need to add 40 grams of warm water, 86 degrees Fahrenheit, 30 degrees Celsius. I have to add 40 grams. Okay, 40 grams. We also need to add 2 teaspoons of instant yeast. 1. 2. And also now 10 grams of salt. I'm going to use pink Himalayan because we like that a lot. 10 grams of this. Let me zero that out. Add 10 grams. Grams of salt. And now we have to add all of our, that's our all-purpose flour, excuse me, our BIGA that we made. Flour, move out of the way. This is what our BIGA looks like that we fermented overnight with a wet hand. So the dough doesn't stick on you. Start to pull it out. Should come right out. Put that in. Anything left, take out. Drop it in. And before I put it back in the mixer, I like to incorporate everything with the rubber spatula. Mix it up really, really well. When we put this back into the mixer, we're going to go on low for about 2 minutes. And then put it to high. And I'll explain why afterwards. You want it, it's hard to explain, but I'll show you in the video the transformation that it makes. Okay. This is what it all should look like. A little sloppy mess. Okay, snap this in. Clean up my mess a little bit. Put my dough hook back on, and I'll bring you closer to show you what it looks like when it's mixing and how it transforms over. Okay, this is what it looks like. I'm going to raise my bowl up and put it on low. See how wet? If I go any higher at the moment, we'll just slop all over the place and come out of the bowl. So I'll let this be on low for about a minute. I am going to cut forward on the video so you can see the dough getting more elasticity and stretching. Okay, we're back. You can see how the dough is sticking to the side now. It's more elastic. Yet the dough's coming together. And now I'm going to start bumping it up to get a lot higher speed, until the dough itself starts to clean itself up off the sides. And this will take another 2 to 3, possibly 4 minutes until it starts to do that. But don't get worried, it will. I got concerned the first few times I did it that I had done something wrong. But as you see, it's on the sides. And after it's on high for a while, it will start to form better and start cleaning itself up off the bowl. I'm going to fast forward until it starts to do that. Okay, it's been about 2 to 3 minutes, and you can see now that the mixer is still on a high setting, and it's cleaning itself up off the side of the bowl, and it's starting to come together, and the gluten and everything is starting to get stronger. It's kind of hard to shake in my counter, but this is what it does. After it's sticking to the side, now it becomes like that. Let it go for a couple more minutes, or seconds actually, sorry. And when it's all done, it's all cleaned off the side now. And I'll lower it down. Alright, now when you look at the dough, it should be shiny on the outside, which I hope you can see. And that's what it looks like. After the dough has started cleaning itself off on the sides, after about 4 to 5 minutes of mixing it, take your dough hook off. As much as your dough off as you can. All that yummy flavor. Okay. And with the stainless bowl, you want to add just a tiny bit of oil. Little tiny bit. Just enough to coat the bowl so the dough won't stick to it as it rests for another 30 minutes. Spin the bowl, rub the oil all around. Just a light coating, you don't want a pool of oil or anything. Just enough so it's nice and coated. So it will release itself from the bowl. Okay. Take the dough that you just did. It should be nice and shiny. And should come right out. Okay, all out. And the dough sits in the center. Grab yourself a tea towel. I just use a regular clean towel. Cover it over so no dirt or nothing gets into it. And let it sit for 30 minutes. And then we'll continue the process. Okay, after the dough has sat for 30 minutes in the oiled bowl, pick up the cover. This is what it should look like. Nicey nice. You might even see some air pockets and stuff. And what we're going to do now, you're going to wet your hand. One good wet hand so the dough doesn't stick to you. And what you do, you're just going to go from the side, go underneath, take it, see how elastic it is, and fold it over. Turn the bowl underneath, pull it, fold it over, pull, see, fold it over on itself, do it again, all the way around. It's going to get harder and harder because it's working itself. Pull, fold over, should stick to itself, and I usually just center it back, but pull and fold over. And that's what it should look like. And then we're going to recover it and wait another 30 minutes, do the process again, the second time. Okay, it's been 30 minutes again since the second pull and fold that we did. And look how much it rose again after that. So it's been pull and fold, wait 30 minutes, pull, fold all the way around, wait 30 minutes. Now we are going to put it on the counter, and it's called, I believe, a lamination they call it. And what we do, we wet the counter. And your hand so the dough doesn't stick to us. After the counter is nice and wet, we take out the dough right on top of the counter. Alright, then we're going to stretch the dough out as best we can. Make sure your hands are nice and wet. Okay. And what we do, we take one side and we fold it halfway in. We stretch out the other side and we fold in like that. We turn it, and then what we do, we just start rolling it, flipping it in on itself. The water on here is actually good. The dough actually needs it. You keep rolling it and rolling it so it looks like a nice log. Then we put it right back in the pan like that, and we're going to cover this and let it sit for 1 hour. Okay, it's been 1 hour since we did our stretch and fold on the wet countertop, and let's see what it looks like. As you can see, it has rose a lot, really active, full of life. And what we're going to do now, we're going to take some flour, all-purpose flour, give it a good sprinkle on it so it doesn't stick to you, because it's really sticky. Good amount. And as that sits there for a minute, we're going to flour the counter a good amount. Okay, and we're going to take the dough out, add it on it, release it. Okay, I'm going to flour this side. Good amount. Pat. Try not to break all the air bubbles, just a gentle pat of all the flour. Make sure it all gets it. Like that. Hold the bowl. We are now also a piece of parchment paper. And flour that so it doesn't stick to the parchment paper. Okay, I do not have a bread knife, so I have a plastic spatula, a pretty good one. And we're going to cut this in half because this is going to make 2 loaves. So, like that. Oops. And one swift move. We are going to put it on the parchment paper. On top of a flour parchment paper. Like that. This is what it should look like. Try to get it even, just a little bigger than that one, but I'm going to leave that. And we're going to prepare our oven and our hot water to bake these. We're going to let this sit now for a half hour and I'll show you now how we prepare our oven. Now that your dough is resting on a floured parchment paper for another 30 minutes, we need to prepare the oven. What we need to do is take the bottom rack out, if you have 2 racks, so we can put a cast iron pan directly on the bottom of the oven, so when we pour hot boiling water in it, it will steam up in the oven to help with the cooking process of the bread. I do not have a pizza stone, so I'm going to use a regular aluminum cookie tray, and you put that also on the top and let that also heat up with the oven, so when you put the parchment paper with the dough on it, it's on a hot surface tray. We're also going to need some sort of lid or cover to go over for the first 7 minutes to trap the steam underneath. When you put the dough and the parchment paper on it, you put the cover over the top so the steam will go into the sides and trap it around the dough. But we'll put that on afterwards when the dough is in. So we're going to shut the oven. We're going to set the oven at 500 degrees. And we're also having a small pot of hot water boiling to put inside the cast iron pan, because you do not want to put a cold water in a hot cast iron pan. The results is not very good. So hot water is going for the cast iron pan. The oven's heating up with the cast iron pan and your pizza stone or cookie tray to 500 degrees. When the 30 minutes is up, hopefully your oven will be all ready to go. It's now 30 minutes. My bread has risen really nicely, nice and airy and fluffy. The oven is now at 500 degrees. My water is boiling for the steam for the cast iron pan. I also cut the parchment paper in 2, so it's easier to lift each piece of dough onto the hot pan. Let's get some gloves on, get the hot pan out, and now we'll transfer the dough to the hot pan. Okay. Try not to burn yourself. Move my island out of the way. Now with both gloves on, I'm going to open the oven. The hot pan in on top shelf. Now your lid or cover, put it over it. We'll make sure there's a space underneath so the steam can go underneath. Take the hot water, be very, very careful when you put this in. Shut the door real quick to trap the steam. And I'm going to set my timer to cook with the lid on for 10 minutes, usually 10 to 12 minutes, and we will come back then. We have about 1 minute to go, a little less, on cooking this on the steam with the lid on it. Usually, most ovens, you would drop the heat down after the 500 degrees, you put it in the oven, then you drop the oven down to 480. But with the steam in my oven, it drops it down significantly. So I just leave it at 500 and it will build its way back up to around 480 when it's all said and done. So we have about another 20 seconds and then we'll remove the lid and we will bake the bread for about another 12 to 15 minutes, depending how golden brown you like your outside on your crust. So 8 minutes. Okay. Now, watch out for the steam that comes out of the oven so you don't burn yourself. Remove the lid. Bread should look like so far. Shut it so we don't lose too much heat. And now I'm going to set a timer for 15 more minutes. And this should be done. If you like your crust a little bit darker, leave it in there longer. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes. I just shut the timer and the oven off and the vent so you can hear me hopefully. And I'm going to take the bread out. Piping hot. Make sure you're careful. That's what it looks like after 15 minutes. I'm going to put it on the cooling rack. Parchment paper. Cooling rack. Parchment. And the cooling rack. Move that out of the way. The aroma is, I can't even describe it. It's amazing. So this is what it looks like after steaming and then cooking. While the water is still in the pan under below, it's still evaporating inside the oven. And this is how I make ciabatta bread. I also, if you like rolls, instead of cutting the dough in half, cut it in quarters, and it makes ciabatta rolls a pretty good size roll, and you'll love it for burgers or sandwiches and whatever you use bread for. But can't wait to cut this open to show you the inside. Okay, the bread cooled for a little bit. I'm gonna cheat because I love my bread right out of the oven. Should wait till it cools a little bit, but I can't wait. If you can, listen to how, can you hear that? Nice and crackly, crispy. It smells delicious. Okay, here we go. Hear that? Oh yeah. And the inside of the bread. Beautiful. Look at that. It's nice and steamy. Beautiful, beautiful bread. The crust is nice and crunchy, not too hard. The inside is the flavor of the bread, the doughiness of the texture. Makes a perfect dipping bread. This absorbs whatever you dip it in really, really well. Holds the flavors. It's just, I'm in love with this bread, and hopefully you will be too. Give it a try and let me know what you think, and send me pictures of your results and what you made into rolls, or maybe a wedge bread, or just a nice big loaf like this. Thank you for watching.